talking about the difference between the new methods and the old ones can be complicated and sometimes unrealistic. But we need to understand what was the points in the old ones and what we are supposed to address in the new ones. So it is really important to know the difference, the real difference between the new ones and the old ones. The question is, what is the difference between the old methods and the new ones? The first thing we have to mind is that things have really changed from the past. Technology has changed the world. So people are living in the new world, in a world that cell phones have changed everything. You can have access to a great amount of information at any time and anywhere. You can use your cell phone to search about everything, to search about anything. So it is hard to deal with the students who are filled with different kinds of information. And they're not willing to study as hard as people used to do in the past. For example, in grammar translation method, we used to ask students to study long hours a day, memorizing long lists of vocabulary and structures, the grammars, and a lot of other things. But in the new methods and in the new era, we cannot ask the students to do so. Even if you do, they won't do it. So it is important to know our limits and our tools and what we can do in the classrooms. So it is important to make students acquire what we want them to acquire in the classroom in a way that it's efficient enough they do not forget that as easily. So it is important to make students learn the language, especially because we're today talking about English as a second language or as foreign language. We want to make students learn the language in a way that it's practical to them. In the old methods, for example, even we can talk about audiolingual and situational teaching. The classroom, the situation in the classroom was so different from what was really happening in the real world. The students would learn to speak English, if you can call that, in the classroom. But when they were outside the classroom, in the real world, it was hard for them to choose the words, to choose the vocabulary, and choose the right structure to communicate with other students. Even though in the new methods, such as communicative language teaching, there is a big difference between the classroom and the real world outside the class. But it is much smaller. The gap is much smaller. And the students are supposed to learn English by using it. We're not teaching grammar deductively anymore. So students get to learn grammar through practice and through the real use, through communication with other students and peers and even the teacher. So it is easier for them to use these kind of grammars outside the class and to use them for communication in the real world. But we have to keep in mind that no single method can be used for all situations. So we cannot say that grammar translation is completely wrong because it does not work, and we can never use that in any situation. That's not true. That cannot be true. That cannot be realistic, because in classes in schools, usually in third world countries, in Asia, in Middle East, the classes are filled with 20 to 30 students. Using communicative language teaching or any other kinds of methods can be time-consuming and hard work to the teacher, especially if the teacher is not a native teacher or lacks a great knowledge of English, has not studied a polite linguistic or any other thing which is abundant in the world. not all the teachers have studied applied linguistics. So it is important to mind them and know that no single method can be used for all classes and for all situations. So we need a combination of the methods. And I will argue that old methods of teaching address important aspects of education that shouldn't be ignored by the new methods of learning. I mean, old methods had something in them which we can use them today to improve our classes, to improve the learning of the students. Another important fact in this world is that today we know more about human body, human brain. The science has completely helped this field of study. Today we know that teaching and learning happens when the situation is real, and you cannot make even children learn a new language through watching programs, watching TV programs, or even working on applications or softwares on the computer. Students and especially children need to communicate with a real person, with a person as an instructor who can help them, they can feel that, they can see the intonation, the intonation patterns, so that they can collect the data of how they can speak their language, how they can use the structures of the language.